My fiancée stumbled in at 3 a.m. She screamed, "I'm independent, don't question me." So I told her, "Good, then you can be independent somewhere else," and kicked her out. I figured that was the end of it. Turns out, it was only the beginning. Hey Reddit. I, 41 male, never thought I'd be writing something like this, but the past few years have been nothing short of wild. What started as me kicking out my entitled fiancé one night ended up turning into one of the craziest chapters of my life. There were lies, accusations, a wedding day interruption straight out of a bad movie, and somehow, closure I didn't think was possible. I'm gonna lay it all out chapter by chapter, because trust me, you'll want the full picture. I don't think anyone goes into an engagement expecting it to crash before the wedding. At least I didn't. Back then, I thought Diana was it. We'd been together a couple years. I'd done the whole ring thing. Our parents had met, and the date was booked. The apartment looked like a Pinterest board had thrown up inside it because she wanted the vibe right before she became Mrs. Me. I ignored a lot of the warning signs because, honestly, I thought that's just how relationships worked. Turns out I was just blind and too patient. Diana had this habit of vanishing for hours and giving me nothing but a smug smile when I asked where she'd been. Phone always face down, notifications off, but somehow her battery would die every other night. If I asked about it, I'd get the usual, "Don't be controlling, I'm not a kid" speech. At first, I brushed it off because I didn't want to be that paranoid guy. The night everything ended, she came stumbling in around 1:30 in the morning. I was sitting on the couch, laptop open, pretending to work, but really just waiting to see if she'd even come home. She didn't look drunk, but she definitely didn't look like someone who just left girls' night. Hair all over the place, that smug grin plastered on her face, and this faint smell that wasn't hers. Not perfume, cologne, not mine either. I didn't blow up right away. I just closed my laptop, leaned back and asked, "Where you been?" That was all it took for her to flip the switch. Her eyes narrowed, arms crossed, chin up like she was on some kind of stage. "Excuse me? I don't need to report to you. I'm independent, Max. You don't own me." I almost laughed. Independent? The same woman who had me paying her credit card bill last month because she forgot about it. The same one who used my Netflix account, my car when hers was acting up, and half the time couldn't even cook her own dinner without asking me to grab takeout. Yeah, real independent. I stood up, walked past her, and went straight to the bedroom. She followed, still yelling about how I was controlling and toxic. I pulled out a suitcase, threw it on the bed, and started packing her stuff. "What the hell are you doing?" she snapped. "Congratulations," I said, tossing her shoes in the bag. "You're independent now. Go be independent somewhere else." She froze for a second, like her brain couldn't process it. Then she let out this sarcastic laugh. "You're bluffing. You're just mad. You'll regret this tomorrow." I zipped up the first bag, grabbed the second, and started filling it with her endless pile of clothes. It's wild how someone can take over half a closet in less than 2 years. She just stood there, watching, still convinced this was some kind of performance. "You really think you can just throw me out? We're engaged. Our wedding is in 6 months. You can't just—" I cut her off. "I can, and I am. Keys on the counter, Diana." She stomped her foot like a kid, muttered something about me being pathetic, but eventually she tossed her key on the dresser. She thought she was playing hardball by slamming it down, like I'd beg her to keep it. I didn't. I just pointed at the door. When she finally grabbed the bags, she had this smug little smirk like she knew I'd break in a few hours. "You'll be crawling back," she said, dragging the suitcase behind her. "You can't do better than me." That line stuck with me. Not because it hurt, but because of how dead serious she was. She really believed she was the peak of my dating career, like she was some rare find instead of the clearance rack version of a partner. I didn't say much back, just opened the door and let her leave. The click of the door shutting was quieter than I expected, but the weight it took off me? That was loud. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I felt calm. No more second-guessing her late nights. No more walking on eggshells about her moods. No more pretending her independent act was anything other than her trying to get away with whatever she wanted. I went back to the bedroom, looked at the half-empty closet, and just sat there. It didn't feel like heartbreak. It felt like cleaning out a storage unit you never wanted in the first place. Messy, loud, and annoying. But once it's gone, all you've got is space. I know most people probably would have tried to talk it out, maybe begged for some explanation. Not me. I was clocked out. That night was the moment I realized no argument, no therapy session, no second chance was going to fix what we had. She wasn't a partner, she was an anchor, and I'd just cut the rope. And as far as regrets go, Kicking her out was the best decision I ever made. I thought maybe she'd call or text the next morning, try some kind of half apology. Nope. Diana's idea of damage control was to post selfies from Hawaii with her coworker Jeff. This was less than 24 hours after I told her to get lost. Her Facebook caption was something like, "New beginnings with real love." The whole thing was so cartoon-level delusional, I actually laughed. She wasn't embarrassed. She wasn't sad. She was literally flaunting a rebound vacation like it was an achievement. And Jeff? This guy looked like he stepped out of a clearance rack Abercrombie ad. Backward hat, fake deep quotes on MySpace, and I swear every photo was him flexing in a bathroom mirror. That's who she jumped to. Not exactly an upgrade. While she was busy playing Tropical Goddess, I handled business. First order, change the locks. She had this habit of forgetting her stuff in places just to have an excuse to come back. I wasn't about to deal with her storming in while I was asleep. New locks, fresh start. Next, I packed the rest of her junk that she didn't grab in her dramatic exit. Took it to one of her friends' places because the last thing I wanted was her making a scene outside mine. I dropped it off, texted her a photo of the bags on the porch with a thumbs up emoji, and blocked her number. Clean cut. Of course, that didn't mean she was done. 3 days later, I'm watching a game when there's this pounding on my door like the cops are raiding me. I peek through the peephole, and there she is, Diana, in full meltdown mode. Hair wild, sunglasses on even though it's evening, screaming about how I was throwing away the best thing I'd ever have. I didn't open the door. Just stood there watching her through the peephole like it was a free reality show. She was yelling loud enough for half the building to hear. How I was a coward. How I'd never find anyone like her. How Jeff was real man material. That last part killed me. Jeff, the same guy who worked under her at the office and once got written up for calling in sick because of emotional stress. Real man material. Sure, Diana. And honestly, it made sense in her messed up way. She was the kind of person who wanted everyone for herself. That's probably why she came back banging on my door after her little Hawaii getaway. She didn't actually want Jeff instead of me. She wanted Jeff and me. That's how she operated. Always needed multiple people orbiting her, so she could feel like the center of the universe. Then she switched gears into full entitlement mode. You owe me. I gave you the best years of my life. You're supposed to take care of me. Best years of her life? We were together 2 years. Most of it spent arguing over why she needed to flirt with random dudes in front of me. Not exactly a golden era. She pounded on the door for a solid 20 minutes before stomping off, yelling, "You'll regret this! Don't come crawling back when she cheats on you like I did to you." Yeah, she actually admitted it mid-rant and didn't even realize what she said. That's how delusional she was. Neighbors asked me later if everything was okay. I just shrugged and said, "Ex-fiancé auditioning for a horror movie role." They laughed, and that was that. The thing is, I wasn't even mad anymore. If anything, it was entertaining. Watching her unravel in real time showed me I dodged a bullet. She thought she was the prize, the main character in my life, when really she was the discount bin version of a fiancé. Half the effort, twice the drama. Meanwhile, I was sleeping better. The apartment felt bigger, quieter, cleaner. No piles of makeup taking over the sink, no random packages showing up because she couldn't stop online shopping, no passive-aggressive sighs every time I didn't jump up to do something for her. Just me, my space, and peace of mind. Diana didn't take the hint, though. Even after the Hawaii stunt, she kept popping up online with these passive-aggressive posts aimed at me. Stuff like, "Some men can't handle a strong woman, but real men step up." Or, "Funny how people don't realize what they had until it's gone." I had her blocked, but friends kept forwarding me screenshots. At one point, she even tagged me in one before remembering I couldn't see it. Imagine being so desperate for attention that you tag the guy who kicked you out. That's Diana in a nutshell. Delusional, entitled, and convinced the world revolves around her. At that point, I knew I'd made the right call. Cutting her out wasn't just smart, it was necessary. She wasn't a partner, she was a parasite. And parasites don't get second chances. The breakup didn't break me. If anything, it sharpened me. It taught me that standing your ground doesn't make you heartless. It makes you sane. And Diana? She could keep posting selfies with Jeff, screaming at my door, and writing Facebook novels about toxic men. None of it mattered. I was free. And I wasn't planning on wasting a second of that freedom, Diana, though. She had other plans. Of course she did. She was the type who couldn't handle not being the center of attention. So while I was busy working, hitting the gym, and actually enjoying a drama-free life, she was out there telling anyone who'd listen that I abandoned her. Yeah, apparently I was the bad guy. Her story was that I'd thrown her out with nowhere to go and that I'd betrayed her trust. In some versions, she claimed I'd cheated on her. Let me remind you, this is the same woman who ran off to Hawaii with Jeff literally the day after I kicked her out. But in her world, logic never mattered. I didn't even know she was running her mouth until a buddy from college texted me, "Bro, why is your ex posting Facebook novels about you being a narcissist cheater?" He sent screenshots, and sure enough, there was Diana writing paragraph after paragraph like she was testifying in court. Stuff like, "I gave him everything, and he threw me away like trash." And my personal favorite, "He's scared of real commitment." Scared of commitment? We had deposits down on a wedding venue, rings paid off, and invites printed. I didn't back out because I was scared. I backed out because she came home smelling like Jeff's cologne. Now, old me would have ignored it, maybe hoped people would see through her act. But I wasn't that guy anymore. If she wanted to play victim, I was about to turn her performance into a one-woman comedy show. So I pulled receipts. Literal ones. I had time-stamped screenshots from Instagram of her sipping piña coladas in Hawaii, while she claimed she was crying on the streets alone. I had her emailed itinerary and booking receipts that matched the dates she was supposedly abandoned. I even had screenshots of texts she sent me bragging about Jeff. I dropped all of it in a group chat with our mutual friends. No ranting, no cursing, just cold, hard facts. My message was simple. Next time she starts her story, ask her why her abandoned self was in Maui with Jeff Silence. Then laughing emojis. Then messages like, "Damn bro, she really tried it." Within a week, her smear campaign was toast. Even the few people who liked drama stopped taking her seriously. She looked delusional. And me? My reputation was intact. Better, actually, because now people saw how calmly I handled her nonsense. Confidence is contagious, and people respect when you don't lose your cool. Around this same time, I caught the biggest break of my career. I was working on this fraud case at a construction company where millions had mysteriously vanished over the years. Everyone thought it was some elaborate scheme no one could crack. But me? I found it. Buried inside layers of fake invoices and contractor shell companies, I uncovered the exact pipeline where the money was leaking. When I presented the report to the partners, the room went dead silent. Then Bethany Morrison, the senior partner who brought me in, leaned back and said, "This is the cleanest breakdown I've ever seen. You just saved our client $5 million. That moment changed everything. Suddenly, I wasn't just some guy doing the grunt work. I was the guy people trusted with high-stakes cases. My name carried weight. Funny thing about success, it makes run-ins with people from your past that much more satisfying. Case in point, I'm grabbing coffee downtown one morning, feeling good after a client meeting, when I hear that voice. High-pitched, dripping with fake superiority. Diana. She was standing in line behind me, and of course she had to make it a scene. "Oh, wow, look who it is. Still chasing pennies in spreadsheets, Max?" She said it loud enough for everyone within 10 feet to hear. I turned, took one look at her, and almost laughed. She looked exhausted, but still tried to stand like she was untouchable. "Diana," I said, flat tone, "you're still talking? Thought you'd come with receipts this time." Her face froze. She mumbled something about how I'd regret losing her, and then stormed out without even getting her drink. That was the last time she tried that kind of petty, random public flex. The next time she pulled something in public made this look tame. And the best part? I didn't even feel anything. No anger, no sadness, not even satisfaction. Just nothing. Like seeing an old classmate you barely remember. That's how little space she took up in my head now. Later that month, I ran into Bethany again, the partner from the fraud case. She asked if I'd join her for a client dinner to go over some strategy. I figured it was just work, but sitting across from her, listening to her sharp breakdowns and no BS way of talking, something clicked. She was nothing like Diana. Grounded, smart, direct, the kind of woman who didn't need chaos to feel alive. We kept it clean, though. No dating until the case wrapped and HR cleared any conflict stuff. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about what I'd lost. I was thinking about what I could build. Bethany and I moved in together after 2 years. She wasn't about endless drama or testing me to prove love every other week. She was steady. She said what she meant and followed through. If she was upset, she told me, not the whole neighborhood on Facebook. She didn't expect me to babysit her moods or rescue her from chaos she caused herself. She was the exact opposite of Diana, and I liked that more than I could ever admit. By the time we got engaged, I felt like life was finally under my control. Career climbing, finances good, relationship healthy, no random explosions. I was on track. And when we started planning the wedding, it wasn't a battle. No fights over centerpieces. No, this needs to be my day nonsense. Just two adults who actually wanted to get married. Imagine that. The big day rolled around quicker than I expected. Ceremony went perfect. Small chapel, close friends, family. Reception was at a farmhouse outside the city. String lights, solid food, good music. I remember thinking, this is exactly how it should feel when you're with the right person. And then the doors blew open. Diana. Of course. She didn't just slip in quietly or hang back. No, she kicked the damn door like she was serving a warrant. She looked rough. Greasy ponytail, wrinkled clothes, makeup smudged like she'd put it on in a moving car. But she wasn't alone. She had a little boy clutched by the arm, dragging him in like a stage prop. And in her other hand, a stack of papers she was waving like golden tickets. "This wedding is a sham," she shouted. "Max, this is your son. You owe me child support." The entire room froze. My wife's relatives, my buddies, my family, all staring at me like they just got hit with a plot twist in real time. The boy looked terrified, clutching her leg, probably wishing the floor would swallow him. That was about 6 years after I kicked Diana out. Jimmy was 5 at the time, caught in the middle of her mess. Back then, a stunt like this would have destroyed me. I would have been scrambling, defensive, panicked, but not now. I didn't flinch. I didn't even raise my voice. I just looked at her and said, "Diana, you really picked the wrong day to embarrass yourself." She doubled down, ranting about how I abandoned her while she was pregnant, how I'd ruined her life, and owed this child a father. She was practically foaming at the mouth, screaming at my family, pointing at Bethany like she'd stolen me. That's when I pulled out my phone. See, I'm not just a guy with suspicions. I'm a forensic accountant. I track details for a living, and I already knew she might pull something one day. So I'd kept records. I tapped open a file I'd saved months earlier. Birth records, marriage certificates, court documents, all public information. I held it up for everyone near me to see. "Funny thing, Diana," I said, nice and loud so the whole room could hear. "According to these documents, you were living in Hawaii with your husband Jeff when this kid was born. Jeff's name is literally on the birth certificate." You could have heard a pin drop. Diana froze, but then tried to pivot. "Those records are wrong." I was confused, depressed. I didn't know what I was signing. "Really?" I said. "Were you confused when you filed taxes as married filing jointly for 4 straight years? Or when you posted anniversary photos from Maui while supposedly abandoned?" The crowd started murmuring. Bethany's dad looked ready to drag her out by the arm. My uncle Robert, who's a lawyer, was already on his phone. Diana's face shifted from angry to pale, like she knew the walls were closing in. The kid, meanwhile, looked like he just wanted to disappear. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't about her trying to be a mother. She wasn't here for him. She was here for money and attention. I crouched down to the boy's level, softened my voice. "Hey, buddy. You okay? You hungry? Need some water?" He nodded, barely whispering, "Yes." That's all I needed. I stood up and turned to my uncle. "Robert, call the CPS hotline and loop in non-emergency police. This kid doesn't belong in the middle of her mess." Diana panicked. "You can't take him from me. He's my son." "No one's taking him," I said, calm but firm. "We're making sure he's safe while adults who actually know what they're doing sort this out. This isn't about me. It's about him." That's when Bethany stepped forward. She hadn't said a word the whole time, but when she spoke, her voice cut like steel. "Ma'am, you've just made defamatory accusations against my husband in front of over 100 witnesses without a shred of credible proof. If you don't leave in the next 5 minutes, I'll personally make sure police remove you for trespassing and child endangerment." Diana looked around, desperate for someone to back her up, but nobody moved. Not one sympathetic face in the room. Even the people who used to defend her were staring like they'd just witnessed the final straw. She mumbled something about "this isn't over," then stormed out, dragging her reputation down with her. Didn't slam the door this time, just left. The silence hung for maybe 30 seconds. Then someone cracked a joke about most dramatic wedding entrance ever, and the whole place laughed. Music started again, food came back out, people moved on. That's when I realized the real win. She hadn't ruined anything. She just exposed herself. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to scream or fight. All I had to do was stand tall, keep my facts straight, and let her collapse under her own lies. By the time the night ended, we were dancing under string lights like nothing had happened. Bethany in my arms, family smiling, friends back to celebrating. Diana was gone, and her chaos couldn't touch us anymore. For the first time ever, she wasn't the one in control. I was. That feeling carried into the days after the wedding. Everyone who'd been there saw it firsthand. Diana wasn't this mysterious victim anymore. She was exposed, and the fallout was immediate. My Uncle Robert had already set things in motion with CPS before the cake was even cut. And for once, I didn't have to lift a finger. Other people were holding her accountable. The investigation started quick. Diana had to sit through interviews and paperwork, and from what Robert told me, she tried pulling the same old victim act, crying, yelling, twisting stories. But professionals don't fall for the same tricks friends and family do. They needed facts, dates, documents, and Diana's timeline didn't add up. That's when the truth started leaking out. Jimmy wasn't mine, obviously. He wasn't even Jeff's. His real father was Logan Rivera, an electrician Diana had been stringing along for years. Jeff was listed as the legal father on the birth certificate, but later testing confirmed Logan was the biological dad. She'd been double dipping, collecting money from Logan on the side, while Jeff thought he was dad of the year. Two men financing her lifestyle, one kid stuck in the middle, and Diana thinking she could juggle it forever. When Robert told me, I almost didn't believe it. Then I saw Logan for myself. He came into one of the early mediation sessions, still in his work coveralls, hands stained with grease, eyes heavy like he hadn't slept in a week. He didn't sit right away, just stood there, jaw clenched, like if he opened his mouth, the whole building would shake. I gave her money every month, he finally said, voice low but sharp. 5 years. Rent, groceries, school stuff, whatever excuse she had. I trusted her. He looked straight at Diana then, and his voice cracked. And you never let me meet him. Not once. You told me it wasn't the right time, that it would confuse him. All while Jeff thought he was the dad? Diana immediately jumped in, frantic. Don't do this, Logan. You don't understand. He's fine. He has me. You'll just make it worse. But Logan didn't even look at her. He just sat down heavily, elbows on the table, covering his face with both hands. It was the first time I'd seen a grown man break in front of me without shame. He wasn't crying to put on a show. He was just gutted, betrayed. You could feel the weight of 5 stolen years pressing down on him. Then Jimmy was brought in. The kid shuffled into the room, small backpack on, eyes darting around nervously. And the moment Logan saw him, his whole body stilled. He dropped his hands and just stared. The resemblance was undeniable. Same nose, same dark eyes, even the same way of fidgeting with his foot under the chair. Jimmy glanced around the table, confused, until his gaze landed on Logan. He tilted his head slightly, squinting like he was looking at an older version of himself. Then, barely above a whisper, he asked, Dad? The air got sucked out of the room. Nobody moved. Logan's lips trembled, and then he let out this shaky breath like he'd been holding it for years. He slid out of his chair, dropped to one knee, and pulled the boy into his arms. Yeah, buddy, he choked out, hugging him tight. Yeah, I'm your dad. Diana scrambled, trying to break the moment. Don't listen to him. He's nothing to you. He's not family. She stood, waving her hands like she could erase what everyone had just seen. But nobody bought it. Not the mediator, not the social worker scribbling notes. Not even Jimmy, who clung tighter to Logan and buried his face in his shoulder like he finally found home. The louder she got, the more invisible she became. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, watching it unfold. And for once, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel bitterness. What I felt was satisfaction. Years of Diana's lies had finally cracked wide open, and no amount of yelling could tape them back together. Logan had his son, Jimmy had his father, and Diana, she had nothing but the mess she made. I didn't need to argue. I didn't need to fight. All I had to do was sit there and let the truth bury her. And bury her it did. Once Logan and Jimmy's bond was clear, the legal hammer started dropping. Family court doesn't mess around with this kind of thing. Diana had lied to multiple men, hidden paternity, pocketed money under false pretenses, and dragged a kid through years of chaos. Judges don't like liars, and they really don't like liars who use children as pawns. Logan filed for custody right away. Diana came in swinging at the first hearing, ranting about how Jimmy needed his mother, and how men can't raise children alone. She tried the waterworks, but the room wasn't buying it. Judges aren't impressed by crying fits. They want paperwork, proof, and consistency. Diana had none of that. Logan, on the other hand, showed up prepared. He had receipts, literally. Bank statements proving he'd been sending her money for years. Texts where she begged him not to tell Jeff. Even notes from teachers saying Diana rarely showed up for school meetings. The contrast was brutal. At one point, the judge even cut Diana off mid-rant. Ms. Davis, this is a courtroom, not a stage. Courtroom. Please answer the question. That line shut her down quick. By the end of it, Her credibility was gone. The final ruling came faster than anyone expected. Logan was granted full custody. Diana was restricted to supervised visitation only. No wiggle room, no gray area, just a clear message. She wasn't fit to be in control anymore. And Jimmy? The change in him was night and day. The nervous, quiet boy I'd seen clutching Diana's arm at my wedding was suddenly laughing, smiling, talking about cars with Logan. The kid finally looked free. Logan brought him by one afternoon to meet Robert at his office, and he couldn't stop showing off the toy cars Logan had bought him. He even talked about wanting to help in the garage when he got older. It was like watching a switch flip. Bethany and I saw them a few more times after that. Cookouts, casual get-togethers, and it was clear Logan was stepping into the role like he'd been waiting his whole life. He wasn't rich, he wasn't polished, but he was steady. And for a kid like Jimmy, that was all that mattered. Diana, on the other hand, was unraveling in real time. Once the courts dug into her finances, the rest of the lies surfaced. She'd been cashing Logan's money while filing taxes with Jeff as though Jimmy was his dependent. She'd taken out loans in Jeff's name, forged signatures on a lease, even filed a bogus claim at work about extended medical leave she never qualified for. Every rock they turned over had another scam under it. And the wild part? She wasn't even good at it. No clever cover-ups, no mastermind plotting, just sloppy desperation. Investigators said she contradicted herself constantly, blaming Jeff in one sentence and swearing he knew nothing in the next. They didn't have to press her hard. She basically handed them the rope to hang her own case. The breaking point came when she finally got arrested outside a strip mall. No big sting operation, just two officers cuffing her while she screamed about conspiracies. Someone caught it on video, and within hours it was everywhere online. Diana, in all her glory, hair messy, makeup smeared, yelling at cops while they shoved her into the back of a cruiser. She ended up pleading out to fraud and forgery charges, got 8 months in county, plus probation and mandatory therapy. I watched it with Bethany later that night. She thought she was wrecking my life, I said, shaking my head. Turns out she just wrote herself into the before picture of a mugshot. Because that's what it looked like. One of those photos where you know the after isn't going to be better. By then, I had zero contact with her. No texts, no calls, no late-night pounding on my door. She wasn't my problem anymore. Honestly, I didn't even feel the urge to gloat. Watching her implode was plenty. Every scam exposed, every lie torn apart, every person she used walking away from her. She was left with nothing. Meanwhile, my life kept moving forward. Bethany and I were steady, planning the future without drama dragging us down. Work was better than ever. And every time I saw Jimmy smiling next to Logan, I felt that quiet satisfaction. Diana had tried to use him as a weapon against me, but all she did was hand him to the man who actually belonged in his life. Sometimes I think back to that moment at the wedding when she stormed in, convinced she was about to humiliate me in front of everyone. She really thought it was checkmate. Instead, it was the move that ended her game completely. She lost her kid, her husband, her money schemes, and her mask, all in one swing. Diana always wanted to be the main character. She got her spotlight. The problem is her final act was a courtroom defeat, an arrest, and a mugshot. Not exactly the standing ovation she imagined. After that, Diana basically vanished from my life. She went from being this daily storm cloud to just background noise. Every now and then I'd hear her name through the grapevine, court hearings, probation check-ins, therapy requirements, but I never had to deal with her directly again. And honestly, that was the real win. Zero contact, zero drama. She wasn't my problem anymore. The years went fast. It's crazy how much quieter life feels when you're not babysitting someone else's chaos. Logan kept Jimmy full-time, and Bethany and I built our own world. Work was steady, marriage solid, house in the suburbs, all the boring grown-up stuff Diana always claimed she wanted but could never actually stick with. Meanwhile, Jimmy grew up right in front of us. I still remember him as that nervous 5-year-old clutching Diana's leg at my wedding. Scared, confused, lost in the mess she created. But as the years passed, that kid turned into someone completely different. By middle school, he was already more confident, cracking jokes like Logan, tagging along to the garage to hand over wrenches. By high school, he was pulling A's, playing basketball, and actually smiling when people called his name. It was like watching a completely different kid step out of the shadow. By the time Jimmy hit 18, he wasn't just some kid anymore. He was a young man, level-headed, solid, with plans for trade school. He'd grown into exactly the kind of person Diana could never take credit for. And he knew it too. One night at a barbecue, he pulled me aside. I wouldn't be here without you, Logan and Bethany, he said. You guys gave me stability when everything was falling apart. I don't know how to thank you. I shrugged, because that's not the kind of thing you need thanks for. But inside, yeah, it felt good. Diana had tried to use him as a weapon against me, and instead, he grew up giving me credit for helping keep him steady. That's the definition of karma. Diana, on the other hand, didn't exactly thrive after prison. She served her sentence, got out, and kind of disappeared into the background. Part of her probation included therapy, and she stuck with it, at least from what I heard. She wasn't fixed, not magically better, but she wasn't the firestorm she used to be either. Quieter, smaller. Like the world finally forced her to sit down and face herself. Jimmy watched all this from a distance. He never forgot how she used him, dragged him into her lies, and treated him like leverage. But when he turned 18, he made a decision that surprised me. I think I want to write her, he told us one night. Not because I want her back in my life. Just, I want closure. For me. So I can move forward. I didn't love the idea, but I respected it. He wasn't looking for validation from her. He wasn't looking to patch things up. He just wanted to say his piece, on his terms. That kind of choice takes guts. So he sat down and wrote a letter. It wasn't long, but it was direct. He told Diana that he was okay, that he'd grown into a man, that he wasn't angry anymore. He made it clear he didn't need anything from her. It wasn't an invitation. It was closure. Weeks went by before he got a response. Honestly, I didn't think she'd write back. But she did. Her letter was short, shaky handwriting, but different from the Diana I remembered. No excuses, no screaming, no playing the victim. Just a simple thank you for reaching out, and a line saying she was glad he'd turned out well. It wasn't redemption. It wasn't some grand apology, but it was enough. Jimmy read it, nodded, and tucked it away. That's all I needed, he said, and you could see the weight come off his shoulders. For me, that was the final chapter. Diana had tried everything. Lies, smear campaigns, wedding crashes, fake papers, fraud. None of it worked. In the end, the only legacy she left was a letter that said, "I'm glad you're okay," to the son she nearly lost completely. Looking back, the revenge wasn't the court wins, or watching her get arrested, or even the mugshot. The real revenge was Jimmy. Watching him grow from a scared little boy into a confident man, in spite of her, not because of her. That's what sealed it. Diana wanted to ruin my life. Instead, she gave me front row seats to watch hers collapse. And somehow, out of that wreckage, a good man grew. And that's the only ending I ever needed. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.